At the core of any economy lies the fundamental building block known as a transaction. In economic terms, a transaction is defined as an exchange of goods, services, or assets between two or more parties, typically involving a buyer and a seller. This exchange can take many forms, from the simple act of purchasing a cup of coffee to complex financial dealings involving stocks and bonds. Transactions are essential because they represent the movement of resources and value within the economy, facilitating the flow of goods and services that sustain economic activity. Each transaction contributes to the overall economic landscape, creating a web of interactions that drive growth and development. Transactions are the lifeblood of economic activity, as they stimulate demand and supply within markets. When a buyer decides to purchase a product, they signal to the seller that there is a demand for that item. In response, the seller may increase production or adjust pricing strategies to meet this demand. Conversely, when sellers offer goods or services, they create opportunities for buyers to engage in transactions. This dynamic interplay between buyers and sellers fosters competition, innovation, and efficiency, ultimately leading to a more vibrant economy. The cumulative effect of countless transactions shapes market trends, influences pricing, and determines the allocation of resources across various sectors. The role of buyers and sellers in markets cannot be overstated. Buyers are individuals or entities that seek to acquire goods or services, driven by their needs and preferences. They play a crucial role in determining the demand side of the market. Sellers, on the other hand, are those who provide goods or services motivated by the desire to earn revenue and profit. Together, buyers and sellers create a marketplace where transactions occur, establishing the foundation for economic interactions. The relationship between these two parties is governed by the principles of supply and demand, which dictate how prices are set and how resources are allocated. In a healthy economy, the interaction between buyers and sellers leads to a continuous cycle of transactions that fuels growth. When buyers are confident in their financial situation, they are more likely to spend, which in turn encourages sellers to produce more. This cycle can create a positive feedback loop where increased transactions lead to higher production, more jobs, and ultimately, greater economic prosperity. Conversely, when transactions decline, it can signal economic downturns, prompting sellers to reduce output and potentially leading to layoffs and decreased consumer confidence. Understanding transactions and their significance is vital for grasping how economies function. By recognizing the importance of these exchanges, individuals can better appreciate the interconnectedness of economic activities and the impact of their own purchasing decisions. Each transaction, no matter how small, contributes to the larger economic picture, influencing everything from local businesses to global markets. In summary, transactions are the fundamental building blocks of the economy, driving activity and shaping the dynamics between buyers and sellers. By examining these interactions, we gain valuable insights into the mechanisms that underpin economic growth and stability, highlighting the essential role that each participant plays in this intricate system. Credit plays a crucial role in the functioning of the economy, serving as a vital mechanism that facilitates transactions and stimulates growth. To understand its significance, it is essential to clarify the difference between credit and money. While money is a medium of exchange that is universally accepted for goods and services, credit represents a promise to pay in the future. Essentially, credit allows individuals and businesses to borrow funds with the expectation that they will repay the borrowed amount, often with interest over time. This distinction is important because credit enables economic activity to occur beyond the immediate availability of cash, allowing for greater flexibility in spending and investment. The influence of credit on spending and economic growth cannot be overstated. When consumers and businesses have access to credit, they are more likely to make purchases and invest in opportunities that they might not otherwise afford. For instance, a family may take out a mortgage to buy a home, or a business may secure a loan to expand its operations. These actions inject money into the economy, driving demand for goods and services and encouraging production. As spending increases, businesses respond by hiring more employees and investing in new projects, which further stimulates economic growth. In this way, credit acts as a catalyst for economic activity, enabling individuals and companies to leverage future income for present consumption and investment. However, the volatility of credit can also have significant implications for borrowers and the broader economy. Credit availability can fluctuate based on various factors, including interest rates, economic conditions, and lender confidence. During periods of economic expansion, credit tends to be more accessible, encouraging borrowing and spending. Conversely, during economic downturns, lenders may tighten credit standards, making it more difficult for individuals and businesses to obtain loans. This tightening can lead to reduced spending, as consumers may be unable to finance purchases and businesses may delay investments. The resulting decrease in economic activity can create a vicious cycle where reduced credit availability leads to lower demand, further economic contraction, and increased difficulty for borrowers. Moreover, the impact of credit volatility on borrowers can be profound. Individuals who rely heavily on credit may find themselves in precarious situations if their financial circumstances change or if credit becomes less accessible. For example, a sudden job loss or unexpected expense can make it challenging for borrowers to meet their repayment obligations, potentially leading to defaults and damaged credit scores. This not only affects the individual borrower, but can also have ripple effects throughout the economy, as defaults can lead to tighter lending standards and reduced consumer confidence. In summary, credit is a fundamental component of the economy, distinct from money, yet intricately linked to it. It influences spending and economic growth by enabling individuals and businesses to make purchases and investments that drive demand. However, the volatility of credit poses risks for borrowers, particularly during economic fluctuations. Understanding the significance of credit and its dynamics is essential for navigating the economic landscape, as it shapes both individual financial decisions and broader economic trends. By recognizing the dual nature of credit as both a facilitator of growth and a potential source of instability, we can better appreciate its role in the economy and the importance of responsible borrowing and lending practices. The short-term debt cycle is a fundamental concept in understanding economic fluctuations, characterized by alternating phases of expansion and contraction. This cycle typically spans several years and is driven by changes in credit availability and interest rates. The stages of this cycle can be outlined as follows: the initial phase of economic expansion, followed by a peak, a contraction phase, and finally a trough before the cycle begins anew. During the expansion phase, economic activity increases as businesses invest, consumers spend, and credit becomes more accessible. This growth is often fueled by rising confidence among consumers and businesses, leading to increased borrowing and spending. As the economy continues to expand, it eventually reaches a peak where growth rates begin to slow. At this point, inflationary pressures may emerge, prompting concerns about overheating in the economy. The central bank plays a crucial role during this stage, as it may decide to intervene by adjusting interest rates. By raising interest rates, the central bank aims to cool down the economy, making borrowing more expensive and encouraging saving over spending. This action is intended to prevent excessive inflation and maintain economic stability. Following the peak, the economy enters the contraction phase, marked by declining economic activity. As interest rates rise, credit availability typically tightens, leading to reduced borrowing and spending. Consumers may cut back on expenditures, and businesses may delay investments or lay off workers in response to decreased demand. This contraction can lead to a downward spiral where reduced spending further exacerbates economic decline, resulting in lower production and increased unemployment. The central bank may respond to this downturn by lowering interest rates to stimulate borrowing and spending, attempting to reignite economic growth. The trough represents the lowest point of the cycle, where economic activity is at its weakest. During this phase, credit availability is often limited and consumer confidence is low. However, as interest rates decrease, borrowing becomes more attractive and the economy begins to recover. This recovery phase marks the transition back into expansion as businesses and consumers start to increase spending again, leading to renewed economic activity. Credit availability is a critical factor influencing economic activity throughout the short-term debt cycle. When credit is readily available, consumers and businesses are more likely to borrow, leading to increased spending and investment. This in turn drives economic growth and can create a positive feedback loop. Conversely, when credit becomes scarce, spending declines and economic activity slows. The central bank's management of interest rates is essential in this context, as it directly impacts the cost of borrowing and the willingness of consumers and businesses to take on debt. In summary, the short-term debt cycle consists of distinct phases of economic expansion and contraction influenced by credit availability and interest rates. The central bank plays a pivotal role in managing these dynamics, using interest rate adjustments to stabilize the economy. Understanding this cycle is crucial for recognizing the patterns of economic activity and the factors that drive growth and decline. By grasping the interplay between credit, interest rates, and economic cycles, individuals and businesses can make more informed decisions in navigating the complexities of the economic landscape. The long-term debt cycle is a critical framework for understanding the evolution of economies over extended periods, typically spanning several decades. Unlike the short-term debt cycle, which focuses on fluctuations in economic activity over a few years, the long-term debt cycle examines how debt burdens accumulate and evolve over time. As economies grow, they often take on increasing levels of debt, which can lead to significant implications for financial stability and economic health. Over decades, debt can accumulate due to various factors, including government borrowing, corporate loans, and consumer credit. As individuals and businesses take on more debt to finance consumption and investment, the overall debt levels in the economy rise, often outpacing income growth. The relationship between income growth and debt levels is a crucial aspect of the long-term debt cycle. Ideally, income growth should keep pace with or exceed the growth of debt to ensure that borrowers can manage their obligations. However, when debt levels rise faster than income, it can create unsustainable financial burdens. This imbalance can lead to increased defaults, reduced consumer spending, and ultimately economic stagnation. For instance, if households are heavily indebted, but their incomes do not rise correspondingly, they may be forced to cut back on spending, which can negatively impact businesses and lead to a slowdown in economic growth. This dynamic illustrates the importance of maintaining a healthy balance between debt accumulation and income growth to ensure long-term economic stability. Historical examples of long-term debt cycles provide valuable insights into their implications. One notable instance is the post-World War II economic expansion in the United States, which was characterized by rising debt levels alongside robust income growth. During this period, households and businesses borrowed extensively to finance consumption and investment, leading to significant economic growth. However, as the 1970s approached, the accumulation of debt began to outpace income growth, resulting in a period of economic stagnation and high inflation known as stagflation. This situation highlighted the dangers of excessive debt accumulation without corresponding income growth, leading to a reevaluation of fiscal and monetary policies. Another historical example is the global financial crisis of 2008, which was precipitated by unsustainable levels of household and corporate debt. In the years leading up to the crisis, easy access to credit fueled a housing bubble, with many borrowers taking on mortgages they could not afford. When housing prices collapsed, it triggered widespread defaults, leading to a severe contraction in economic activity. This crisis underscored the risks associated with high debt levels and the importance of prudent lending practices. In summary, the long-term debt cycle illustrates how debt burdens accumulate over decades and the implications of this accumulation for economic stability. The relationship between income growth and debt levels is critical, as imbalances can lead to financial distress and economic downturns. Historical examples, such as the post-World War II expansion and the 2008 financial crisis, serve as reminders of the potential consequences of excessive debt accumulation. Understanding the dynamics of the long-term debt cycle is essential for policymakers, businesses, and individuals alike, as it provides insights into the risks and opportunities associated with debt in the broader economic context. By recognizing these patterns, stakeholders can make more informed decisions to promote sustainable economic growth and stability. Deleveraging is a critical process that occurs during economic downturns, defined as the reduction of debt levels by individuals, businesses, and governments. This process typically arises in response to excessive debt accumulation, which can lead to financial instability and economic distress. When borrowers find themselves unable to meet their debt obligations, they often seek to reduce their debt burdens to restore financial health. Deleveraging can be triggered by various factors, including rising interest rates, declining asset values, or a general loss of confidence in the economy. As borrowers attempt to reduce their debt, the effects ripple through the economy, influencing spending patterns, income levels, and overall economic activity. There are 4 primary ways in which debt burdens can be reduced during the deleveraging process. First, borrowers can pay down their debts directly by using available cash flow or savings. This approach often requires significant sacrifices in spending, as individuals and businesses prioritize debt repayment over consumption. Second, borrowers may refinance their debts to secure lower interest rates or extend repayment terms, making their obligations more manageable. While this can provide temporary relief, it does not eliminate the debt, but rather alters its structure. Third, debt can be reduced through asset sales, where borrowers liquidate assets to generate cash for debt repayment. This method can have broader implications for the economy, as widespread asset sales can lead to declining prices and further economic contraction. Lastly, debt forgiveness or restructuring can occur, where lenders agree to reduce the amount owed or modify repayment terms. This approach can provide immediate relief to borrowers, but may also lead to losses for lenders, impacting their financial stability. The consequences of deleveraging on spending and income can be profound. As borrowers focus on reducing their debt, they often cut back on discretionary spending, leading to a decline in overall consumer demand. This reduction in spending can create a negative feedback loop, where decreased demand leads to lower business revenues, prompting companies to cut costs, reduce investments, and lay off workers. As unemployment rises, household incomes decline, further exacerbating the challenges of deleveraging. This cycle can result in prolonged economic stagnation, as reduced spending hampers growth and recovery efforts. Moreover, deleveraging can have significant implications for the financial system. As borrowers attempt to reduce their debt, lenders may face increased defaults and losses, leading to tighter credit conditions. This tightening can make it more difficult for consumers and businesses to access credit, further constraining spending and investment. The overall effect can be a sluggish recovery, as the economy struggles to regain momentum in the face of reduced borrowing and spending. In summary, deleveraging is a process that occurs during economic downturns, characterized by the reduction of debt levels in response to financial distress. The 4 primary methods of reducing debt, paying down, refinancing, asset sales, and debt forgiveness, each carry their own implications for the economy. The consequences of deleveraging on spending and income can lead to a cycle of reduced demand, increased unemployment, and prolonged economic stagnation. Understanding the deleveraging process is essential for policymakers and stakeholders, as it highlights the challenges of managing debt levels and the importance of fostering a stable economic environment that encourages sustainable growth and recovery. Deleveraging, the process of reducing debt levels, can manifest in 2 distinct forms: beautiful deleveraging and ugly deleveraging. Understanding the differences between these 2 types is crucial for assessing their implications for the economy. Beautiful deleveraging occurs when debt levels are reduced in a balanced manner, supported by effective policies that promote economic stability and growth. In contrast, ugly deleveraging arises from poorly managed processes that can lead to economic distress, prolonged downturns, and increased financial instability. Beautiful deleveraging is characterized by a coordinated approach to reducing debt while simultaneously fostering economic growth. This can be achieved through balanced policies that include fiscal discipline, monetary support, and structural reforms. For instance, a government may implement policies that encourage investment in infrastructure and education, which can stimulate economic activity and create jobs. At the same time, the central bank might maintain low interest rates to facilitate borrowing for productive purposes. This combination allows for a gradual reduction in debt levels while supporting income growth and consumer spending. In a beautiful deleveraging scenario, the economy can stabilize and recover as the reduction in debt does not come at the expense of economic activity. On the other hand, ugly deleveraging occurs when the process of reducing debt is mismanaged, leading to adverse economic consequences. This can happen when policymakers fail to coordinate their efforts, resulting in austerity measures that cut public spending without addressing the underlying issues of debt accumulation. For example, if a government implements severe budget cuts during a recession, it can lead to reduced public services, increased unemployment, and lower consumer confidence. This, in turn, can exacerbate the economic downturn, making it more challenging for borrowers to manage their debts. In such cases, the focus on reducing debt can overshadow the need for economic growth, leading to a vicious cycle of declining demand and rising defaults. The risks associated with poorly managed deleveraging processes are significant. When debt is reduced too quickly or without consideration for economic conditions, it can lead to a sharp contraction in spending and investment. This contraction can trigger a downward spiral where reduced economic activity leads to further debt defaults, tighter credit conditions, and increased financial instability. The consequences can be severe, resulting in prolonged recessions, higher unemployment rates, and a loss of public trust in financial institutions and government policies. Maintaining economic stability is paramount during the deleveraging process. Policymakers must strike a delicate balance between reducing debt and promoting growth. This requires a comprehensive understanding of the economic landscape and the potential impacts of various policies. By prioritizing stability, governments and central banks can create an environment conducive to recovery, where debt levels can be reduced without sacrificing economic vitality. In summary, the distinction between beautiful and ugly deleveraging lies in the management of the debt reduction process. Beautiful deleveraging is achieved through balanced policies that promote growth and stability, while ugly deleveraging results from poorly coordinated efforts that can exacerbate economic distress. The risks of mismanaged deleveraging highlight the importance of maintaining economic stability, as it is essential for fostering a healthy economic environment that supports sustainable growth and effective debt management. By understanding these dynamics, stakeholders can better navigate the complexities of deleveraging and work towards achieving a more stable and prosperous economy. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of economic cycles and debt management. We hope you found the information insightful and actionable.